Welcome to Crusty Conversations, the podcast where I talk to myself and sometimes other humans. In today's episode, I'll be talking to two humans. I have two guests. I have the one and only Alexander.
Yo.
I also have the one and only Dazzling Dash.
I love you, BB.
In today's episode, we'll be answering the age-old question: can men and women only be friends? And this is going to be answered from a biblical perspective. To start off in this episode, if I could please just have you guys just give me a little background of how your household shaped the way you had relationships with the women who were either your siblings, cousins, or even friends. For me personally, growing up, I have five brothers. I didn't live in the same household with them. It was like this unspoken rule of like, yeah, you can be friends with men and women, or with men specifically, but you have to be very careful because they could be a distraction from the goals that you have for yourself. Until you achieve those goals, that's when you could think about men. And I feel like that perspective is kind of like this like new sexual revolution where like women are taught that, you have to like grind, reach that goal, hit the glass ceiling. And once you've reached that glass ceiling in your 40s, then you could think about marriage and get married. But by then your eggs are probably fried.
My upbringing was probably interesting from the standpoint of my dad actually had two women best friends who were sisters. And so he told me early on he never crossed the line with them in any way. Like they were his true, genuine friends. They met through the neighborhood and then they started hanging out, going to the club, partying together. So I saw very on, and I had a clear example of a healthy friendship between a man and a woman. Like my mom met them. They were always super respectful to my mom. They never crossed that line. So I had a good example of men and women being friends and it being healthy. And then to your point, I had a girlfriend in fourth grade, which is funny, right? But like my teacher, they did parent teacher conference. My teacher said like, hey, I think he has a little girlfriend, or that's like what I'm hearing. And then my parents set me down to the point of like, hey, I know you got an air quote girlfriend, but don't get distracted. I send you to school to, get good grades and behave and things like that. So I actually grew up with a healthy example of a friendship between men and women.
That's good. Mr. Alex, do you want to take us away?
I don't know necessarily about taking us away. For myself, I grew up with a sister. My only sibling, in fact, is a female. So I think very much so as far as like building relationships with women, I kind of didn't have a choice. I had a younger sister to take care of and care for. Now, does that mean I know a lot about women? No. But what it does mean is that I feel like I grew up with the opportunity to get to know women. And even as far as like going to high school and even when I was younger, there were always female relationships. My parents didn't necessarily preach the fact of a woman being a distraction. That was more of just my own purpose for excellence and just to do the best that I can as a human being. But I did have some heartaches. There were plenty of crushes that I had in high school and beforehand that did not go so well. So I think the trauma from those particular failed relationships actually shifted me from the opposite. Mm-hmm. Whereas some people may find it easy to talk to women and build relationships, I went from it being easy to talk to women to suddenly like, oh, I'm developing these feelings and these emotions. So now I'm just going to ignore all of this. And so anyone that I like or I care for that's a female, I'm just going to ignore them. That's where I'm starting from.
That's very interesting that you went from being able to like express yourself or like have this relationship with women to be like, do you know what? Like I will like ignore those relationships.
Well, let me preface this by saying that I was also a very weird kid, very introverted, very
we
to
are all
myself.
we are all weird people. So we've talked about our backgrounds. The second part, I want you guys to like talk about now that you have like these formed ideas and values and beliefs, how did that translate to navigating relationships with the opposite gender, like in the church and like in the world too, right? Because like just because we go to church, we also live in the world.
Go first this time since Dash blessed us with going the first time. So, and I might have a little bit more to unpack with this one. So I was actually reached out to and baptized in college my very first year at the end of the year. And as I told y'all, I already had very weird preconceived notions regarding females that weren't family members. I did still have friends in high school that were girls, but oftentimes I liked them and it just didn't work out. And so for me, becoming a Christian, there was a big emphasis on protecting someone's heart, protecting a sister's heart, not leading them on, treating your sisters as you would with any family member with absolute purity. And with that, we had this little thing called, I don't know if y'all know about it, it's called encouragement dates, where the goal was to, it was supposed to be to create a culture where you could take a sister out to get to know her with other people, another brother and another sister that also believe in God. And the goal is supposed to be Jesus, but it gives them a place to feel safe and appreciated. And that was supposed to help stop them from being interested in like the vices of this world, like perhaps not having a boyfriend that's not necessarily godly. Did it work all the time? Absolutely not. But what it did do is I think it led me having to unpack some things, because while there is wisdom in trying to be wise and protecting people's hearts, I think it can also be taken too far. And then suddenly it becomes you're only getting the time with this sister, or you're only getting to know this individual if you're in groups, and you're so worried about protecting their heart that you're not really trying to get to know them as a person. You're really just trying to live up to a cultural expectation that's not necessarily even biblical, with good intentions, of course, but it doesn't always go the way you would hope or plan.
I'll say I appreciate that, Alex. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
I'll say for me, it was a culture clash. It was a true culture clash, just because. So I got baptized in 2019. I was almost 30, I'll say. The person who introduced me to my discipler was actually a sister. She introduced herself first, and then she invited me out to her Bible talk group where I met my discipler. So it was a culture clash from the sense of showing up here and they're like, "Hey, watch how you watch the time you spend with sisters, watch how you're alone with them, watch what you do." And I'm like, if I'm being 100% honest, I didn't get it. That's not how I grew up. That's not how I was raised. I was, like I said, I grew up with an example of a healthy friendship between men and women. And my mother and father were also adamant about just treating women with respect no matter what. So my dad always, his biggest things for us from the very beginning was, you do not lie to a woman and you do not lead her on. If you don't like her, say that you don't like her, but you need to treat her with the love and respect she deserves. And so it was a culture clash here, coming and they're like, wait, I gotta watch the time I spend with sisters, but I can only hang out with them on encouragement dates. Like I don't get why we need this like structured fun, because I was just hanging out with because I have a couple of best friends who are women, like my true genuine friends. I'm like, we hang out all the time and nothing happens. And so if I'm being honest, like the past couple of years, that is something I've wrestled with just internally, like the culture clash in it. Because I agree with Alex, like the intentions behind the encouragement dates. I do believe in fundamentally, because I do think from a worldly perspective, there are a lot of men who just build friendships with women just to take it to the next step. And I think that's 100% wrong. So I do agree with the biblical concept and our concept of no, I'm gonna take you on a date, encourage you. I don't want anything from you. I just want to build you up. I do agree with that. But to Alex's point, tell me if I'm wrong. I think we've kind of gotten off path with it and it's turned into something else because I've seen brothers who only go on encouragement dates with women that they're interested in, and if they're not interested in the women, there is no encouragement date. There's barely any acknowledgement, if it's that. Like, they'll speak if we're in the same vicinity because it's the right thing to do, but they ain't going out of their way. They're not coming from the other side of the room. I just don't agree. And so that is something I wrestle with internally, like the culture clash.
I think that I largely agree with what Dash talks about. I think that as far as building relationships with females, and something that's helped me a lot is, you know, technically the first person that saw Jesus after he rose from the grave was Mary Magdalene. Jesus very much cared about building relationships with both women and men. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Jesus can have a completely non-sexual, healthy, invigorating relationship with both men and women means that it is possible for all of us. But I think we have to look at the heart behind why we do things. Jesus looked at people and loved them for who they were. He saw their sin. He saw their weaknesses, and still he chose to love them anyways. And he was intentional about his time, about how he engaged, about how he loved. And I think for myself, I'd really like to see that culture brought back to just dating, or even guy and girl relationships in general. It's not necessarily about what you can get from somebody, but it's about the getting to genuinely know them as a human being. So as far as like guys and girls, I totally think it is possible. I think a lot of us just have to break down our preconceived notions or fears or whatever discontent we have, because there's, like Dash had spoke about earlier, like it's one thing to pursue somebody because you're interested in them romantically. It's another thing to pursue somebody because you care for them as a human being. You want a relationship with them that's not sexual, that's just friend based, right? And you want to see them succeed, and you want to keep up with them because you genuinely like them as a human being. I think a lot of that is lost in our daily culture now. It's all about me, me, me. Mm-hmm. What's given to me? How do you benefit me? And if you don't, then I don't need you. And I think that is unfortunately one of the cruxes of American culture. We're willing to step over any and everyone to get to where we're supposed to be for supposed success. And I think it really is important, as Sabina brought out, to just go back to biblical principles when it comes to building relationships and even just how you view people. That's all I got.
Wow, you guys touched on a lot of things. There's a lot of things to break down. You guys touched on encouragement dates and today's culture and the me and the intent behind it, because intention is very important, and clarity, the importance of being clear, and the fact that your dad Dash told you that the most important thing is to, number one, respect a woman, respect women, and number two, to not lead them on. Yeah, oh my gosh. You guys just, my mind is blown. I'm like, what do I say now? You said it all. And that's why I wanted to start from the beginning. When you are young, your ideas and beliefs and values are shaped by the people around you. And so that kind of grows with you, and that's how you navigate the world. And when people are doing things differently, right? Either at a church, or or at school, or in college, or at work, there's different dynamics. You carry those ideas with you in those places, and they manifest in different ways. I think we all have our thoughts about encouragement dates. You guys know how I feel about those. Whoever came up with the idea, had good intentions, but at the end of the day, like Dash mentioned, people only use it because they're interested in somebody, but not because they're genuinely interested in a friendship. And that's why I really appreciate you and Alex, because we have a genuine friendship. It's I come to you guys for everything. Dash is my accountability partner. He holds me accountable. I go to Alex and I'm like, Alex, this is what's going on in life. Lastly, I just want to tie it back to, how do people move forward, right? How can they be better? Because on one hand, you have the world, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, YouTube, you literally have ChatGPT to like answer your question for you. And like I always like go into this like rabbit holes, just like watch certain videos, and I've been like in the rabbit hole of like AI and ChatGPT and how like men and women are finding these like robotic companions.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes, yes.
it's crazy. Like ever
Yes.
since the pandemic, we've seen a surge of this.
Like the guy who cheated on his wife with his AI girlfriend.
Yeah, like it's getting so crazy. Like people are literally like now turning to robots because it's like I can't have like a platonic relationship where I deeply care about this opposite sex, like this man or this woman, and I want good for them. So when I was in Maryland, I worked at this company and I had two like really, really good friends. I call them my best friends, but they would say otherwise. Um, Marcus and Walter. And I think having a friendship with them really like it helped me grow so much, and it also changed those ideas that I had when I was like young, and those like beliefs that I grew up with of like, oh, like like you have to stay away from men because they're a distraction. But until you're like ready to get married, that's when you could start having a friendship. But being friends with them just taught me so much. And I think that's why when it was time for me to move to Texas, I've been able to like have these friendships with you guys. You, Alex and JT, like I credited because I had those like friendships with Marcus and Walter. That was a long spiel, but yeah. So let's tie it back. How can men and women be friends while living in the world, and how can you show healthy relationships?
To answer your question, Alex touched on this, moving with the heart of Christ. So I think moving with the heart of Christ, seeing women, and for women, men, seeing people the way Jesus sees them, the way the Lord God sees them, and not seeing them as objects of your affection or objects of your desire. So I think one, like Alex said, moving with the heart of Christ, and then two, I would say from a worldly perspective, it's just being honest and yeah, moving in honesty, saying, "Hey, yes, I am interested in you," and removing your pride from it too, right? So that's a big part of like, if I say I'm interested in somebody, she says, "Well, I don't see you in that way." Me not being jaded towards her. Well, I don't like you like that. Well, like, no, she's not a. My dad did tell me that too. Like, hey, it's okay that somebody doesn't like you because there's gonna be someone that you don't like. And so back to his points, like, hey, that's why you treat her right. That's why you be respectful. So I would say moving or living with the heart of Christ and moving in honesty. And I'll say another thing. I forgot to mention this earlier. So when I moved to LA, I had my roommate was a woman. We never had an issue. We didn't really argue. It was nothing because again, we were honest. We were genuine friends. We went to college together. We were honest with each other. And I do think, to your earlier point, I think men and women should be friends. I think women provide a balance that men don't have, and I think men provide a balance women don't have. So I think if we live with the heart of Christ and move in honesty, that will help us build those healthy friendships.
There's not really too much I can add on top of moving with the heart of Christ. I think oftentimes I'm just going to myself because personally, it's like if I find that I'm attracted to a girl in the world, it's very easy for me to just like shut that relationship off or hold them at a distance because it's like, well, they don't have the same convictions as me. So in order to protect my own heart, I'm going to do this. And that's not right. And that's something that I feel like I'm still learning to work with. So thank you, Dash, for bringing up like having the heart of Christ. Because the irony of it all is when I told you when I was younger, like I kind of had a flip flop where it's like I was friends. I had a sister. I was friends with girls. Or I have a sister. I was friends with girls. And then I kind of got afraid and I moved back. Well, the irony is as I've grown older and developed my relationship with Christ, and I think just maybe coming with age, I've developed a lot of female friends, whether it's girls within the church, whether it's coworkers. I just genuinely tend to gravitate towards women. And I think like Dash said, that's just women provide a very unique, exciting, enjoyable perspective to life. They're fun. Let's just be real. You women are fun. And I think men especially do themselves a disservice if they don't have female friendships. I think God made men and women for many reasons. And one of them is to have genuine, authentic, life-giving relationships with one another. Almost all my friends that are female, that I've had friendships with, I've deeply enjoyed, I've deeply cherished, I've deeply relished. And crazier is, as I've gotten older, there are some friends that I found attractive that I've liked, and that maybe I still do like some of them. But I am able to, because of in view of who God is and his mercy, have healthy relationships, have healthy boundaries, and understand that if our goal is to work towards God together, then I don't really need to be acting all weird and, strange just because I find that person attractive. Which, Dash, you had a great dad, because, someone, I wish I could be as straightforward with some women. I think that would have spared me a lot of heartache in the past. But yeah, I just think authentically love people, kind of like what we were talking about before. Understand who Christ is. And I think another point that we may have hit on, but we may not have, is understand where people are coming from. Like, we live in a world that is predominantly non-Christian. We're called to be a light to individuals, whether they're males or females. So take those times of your coworkers or your female friends, and just get to know them as people. I think that's what's going to really help our culture, is when people treat people the way they would like to be treated. And not use religion as a way to kind of just excuse not engaging with certain groups and certain people because of their beliefs and thoughts. Christ came to turn the world upside down. That's why Christianity spread in the way it is, because Christ went against the culture. He spoke with love, but he also spoke with authority. And we're called to do the same. It's just, are we going to take that step of really serving as an example that God made us to be? And I think one of the healthy ways to start is men and female relationships. So yeah, go out there and make yourself some female friends and some men friends too. So
I agree. Well, thank you guys so much. Any last words from these wise men?
Thanks for having us. I love you, BB.
I love you too.
Sabina's one of the coolest people I've ever known. Let me tell you something right now. When I first met her, she was so quiet. She didn't talk. She didn't really engage nobody. Now she talks. She has a good time. And she's one of them people. She's a real one. Anyways, that's all I got to say.
Okay, before I end this episode, I would like to read from the book of Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 to 12 that talks about friendships. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two tie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. We are the 3 strands. Another crusty little chapter closed. Thanks for listening in. Until next time, stay rooted, stay real, and stay close to God.